Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution, and also in part by Xyway brand fungicide, where you get an unfair advantage. Always read and follow label directions. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dale Menyo. The U.S. Department of Agriculture will spearhead a trade mission to Guatemala City, Guatemala, from March 3rd through the 7th to strengthen trade ties and expand U.S. agriculture exports across Central America. The mission includes more than 24 agribusinesses, trade organizations, and representatives from 2 state departments of agriculture. Strengthening export opportunities for American farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses is a top priority of USDA, said Foreign Ag Service Acting Associate Minister Mark Slupek, who will lead the trade mission. Guatemala is the largest economy and most populous country in Central America, with projections indicating continued economic growth. In 2024, it was the largest Central American market for U.S. agricultural products and the 16th largest globally, with exports totaling $1.9 billion. That same year, U.S. agriculture exports reached $1.4 billion to Honduras, $832 million to El Salvador. The value of agriculture exports to Guatemala saw a significant 15% increase from 2023, while exports to Honduras and El Salvador grew by 4 and 5%, respectively. Now, Guatemala and its Central American neighbors are covered by the Central America Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement. Under that agreement, almost all tariffs have been phased out, and the agreement further strengthens the position of U.S. products in the region. The trade mission will provide participants with the opportunity to meet directly with buyers from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador through tailored business-to-business meetings, and foreign ag service staff and regional exports will also lead market briefings, site visits, and networking events. I'll have more from the United Soybean See for Yourself tour coming up. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
A large part of the state turns out partly sunny today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. Most of the state is what I said, and that's because there is a weather system. This is the remains of that winter storm that hit Kansas and Oklahoma yesterday. The remains of that system passing by over Kentucky and Tennessee. And I do feel that we are going to be seeing some offshoot of that in southern Ohio. Mostly clouds, and if it's precipitation, maybe a flurry or two, but I just don't think it's much. Getting north of that, the northern 2/3 of Ohio, I think turns out partly sunny easily, as high pressure, honestly, is still sitting right here. We see a reinforcing shot of Arctic air coming in behind the weather system that's passing by to our south. That's going to bring it strong north flow for tomorrow. That's important because that north flow, I believe, will probably trigger some lake effect coming off of Lake Erie into northern parts of Ohio. It's going to be in the usual suspect areas, north central, northeast, but I do think some clouds can get farther south, especially tomorrow morning early and into the midday hours. In any case, by the time we get done with the week, high pressure is going to be sitting right on top of us, so the coldest core of this Arctic air is here for Friday, for Saturday, and early Sunday. Sunday afternoon, we get on the backside of the high, start to see south flow in here. That's going to moderate temperatures for the start of next week. Monday afternoon and especially Tuesday, Wednesday, we see above normal temperatures. Then we have to watch for a weather system that wants to kick into the area the second part of next week, Thursday, Friday. Rain and maybe a little wet snow, but mostly rain. I'm Ryan Martin.
This is Andrew Armstrong. Andrew, what county is home for you?
Clark County.
So from Clark County, Ohio, his first international experience on behalf of the U.S. Soybean Board and Ohio Soybean Council. He went on a See for Yourself mission to see where his checkoff dollars were going. As you looked at that, what kind of investment do we make in Honduras, as you saw on your trip?
Important one to me, which when I first was hearing about it, I wasn't sure if it was really worth the while. And what it is the Soy Excellence Center, which basically is a education part. So they're part of colleges and students can get into this program. Essentially, it's talking about U.S. soy. It's talking about helping them get better feed ratios with their livestock down there and just kind of educating them, all the while building a preference for United States soybeans, because the U.S. soybeans are better nutritional values, they're better quality than other markets around the world. And so they're building that favoritism, if you will, for United Soy. And I got down there and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So then I was able to go to a graduation ceremony, and we sat next to some of the students that were getting their diplomas that evening. It was one of the best experiences I'd had down there, talking to those students, and they loved U.S. Soy. They were asking us questions about on the farm and how we do it, and they wanting to see pictures, and just building those relationships through that program. I came home thinking that was one of the strongest things that we've done down there, was just building relationships with those people.
It sounds like the Grow Next Gen program on steroids.
Yes, exactly.
Andrew, anything else that listeners should know about the trip, the experience? You said before we got on the air, you felt very safe, 10 farmers and security, and you were guided very cleanly everywhere you needed to go. That's got to make more people feel comfortable about making this kind of trip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They had everything planned down there to a couple hours that you were able to explore a little bit here and there. I even felt comfortable going out just around our hotel. The city, we went to Guatemala City. They were so hospitable to us. We were able to kind of hang out with them. Never once did I feel any kind of scared of any sort.
Well, that's a good thing. This is something that happens just once a year, or do they do it in different seasons? Or for people listening, when may be the next opportunity to see for yourself?
To our knowledge, it's just once a year. They have not picked where the next one's going. There's rumors of where the next one will be, but the application's more in the fall. And so just kind of stay tuned as to when and where that comes around.
Sounds great. I've been visiting with Andrew Armstrong, a Ohio farmer from Clark County, just returning from his See for Yourself mission, a project of the United Soybean Board and Ohio Soybean Council. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
And let's talk more about international trade. Greg Dodd, President and CEO of the National Milk Producers Federation, told the House Ways and Means Trade Subcommittee that expanding market access and enforcing existing trade agreements to America's dairy producers, workers, and exporters is of paramount importance. To keep up with our competitors from Europe and New Zealand, U.S. dairy exporters need new trade deals that cut tariffs and tackle non-tariff trade barriers, said Dodd in his written testimony. Whether the U.S. government prioritizes the enforcement and the trade agreements it has negotiated and addresses trade barriers targeting U.S. exports will determine whether American farmers and workers will actually benefit from the market access that has and will be promised. The U.S. dairy industry last year exported close to $8.3 billion in dairy products overseas, supporting thousands of jobs across the country, despite competing against global counterparts who benefit from more recent and expansive trade agreements. Dodd highlighted the critical role of existing U.S. trade agreements and called on Congress and the Trump administration to pursue and enforce trade policies that empower the U.S. dairy industry to grow its business internationally. We are hopeful that the U.S. government will take this as a challenge to stand up for U.S. dairy and U.S. agriculture. Our farmers deserve a level playing field and are counting on their government to deliver. Back with more after this.
Morton Buildings is holding their annual Building Value Day sales event running now through the end of February. Morton Buildings are built stronger, last longer, and look better. So if you're planning for a garage, farm shop, stall barn, a storage building for your RV, boat, or collectibles, or anything in between, act now and contact one of their 4 Ohio offices by visiting mortonbuildings.com or call 800-447-7436 to take advantage of their current savings on select new buildings. Certain restrictions may apply. This offer is available on select building styles. Contact your local construction center for more details.
Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org. Let's check in with Joel now with our update from BASF.
Talking with Adam Byrne, FMC Technical Service Manager, and we're going to be talking about specifically their fungicide Xyway, which is pretty unique in that it is brought on at planting.
The one thing we definitely know about tar spot is it's here to stay. It survives on residue. It's always going to be there at the end of the season. None of the fungicides we use, foliar or at plant, are going to be that season-long silver bullet. So when they wear off, that efficacy of a foliar spray wears down, that tar spot's going to ramp up and have some progression. So at harvest, we're always going to see a little bit out there, but that just primes the inoculum for next year. So if the environmental conditions in your area are right, the risk is there. And so we don't know from year to year what our weather conditions are going to be, but absolutely we know that tar spots in our system, and is a risk we have to be ready for. And Xyway does a great job of preparing us for that, as we just discussed. It sets the stage, helps knock back those other diseases. And it's shown by creating a healthier plant. There's a lot of crop development benefits we see with Xyway, but we see a much healthier, stronger plant. It's kind of like an immune boost, right? Going into that infection period, it's holding off that onset of tar spot, maybe up to 10, 14 days, giving you a little bit more window to respond and just holding off that progression. So we hear it from growers and retailers region-wide that they just feel that their Xyway plots are just holding off that tar spot, not responding as fast, which is a great advantage for the growers.
More information at FMC's website, I'm sure.
Yeah, www.ag.fmc.com. There you go.
Joining us today on the Ohio AgNet, Adam Byrne, FMC Technical Service Manager. He covers Ohio and has been doing a great job here of covering this, of a fungicide to think about using at planting.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. To market your beans to LDC, call for information at 574-566-2113. With our data, here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mostly higher on Tuesday, the first trading day of the week following the holiday on Monday. We saw corn up anywhere from 5 to 7 cents, leading the charge. Beans up 2 to 4 cents overall. And we saw wheat markets up after starting a little bit weaker overall. Let's start with the headlines yesterday on the NOPA crush side of things. We saw the NOPA crush report coming out mostly neutral. We did see a very strong record crush for the month, but crush also came in 4 million bushels below previous expectations. The September to January NOPA crush sits at 978 million bushels, up nearly 6% year on year. It comes in really close to what USDA is forecasting on an annual basis. An upward revision to the 24-25 soy crush forecast is not anticipated at this point. Soy oil stocks on January 31st, only 1.27 billion pounds, up a modest 38 million from December, down 15% from last year. The soy oil disappearance in January was a record 2.36 billion pounds. Remember, though, India was in to buy a lot. We had a lot of soy oil export movement in the marketplace, so should not be too surprising overall. Export inspections out yesterday, 1 day late because of the holiday. 63 million bushels of corn versus 53 the previous week. Wheat inspections were 9 million versus 21 the previous week. Beans coming in at 26 versus 40. For the respective crop years today, we're still 35% higher year on year on corn, 12% higher year on year on beans, and slipping fast. Wheat up 22% year on year. Other news in the marketplace yesterday, Russian exporters are now subject to an 11 million metric ton export quota into June 30th. That by itself isn't probably bullish given the unexciting nature of weekly world wheat trade, but a drop in Russian prices is unlikely until much more is known about the new crop potential in that April to May timeframe. That's the way your market's finished up. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, March corn up 1/4 cent at $4.80. May up 1/2, $4.94 3/4. December new crop down 3/4 at $4.69 1/4 cent. March beans down a penny at $10.30 1/4 cent. May down a penny at $10.47 3/4. November down a penny 3/4 at $10.49 1/4 cent. The July wheat is up 2 at $6.04 1/4 cent. September also up 2 at $6.19 1/2. In livestock, let's go with April cattle up 62 at $195.72. June's up 85 cents at $192.25. The April lean hogs 86.57 down 82. May down 90 cents at $90.60. Go on out to June, you're down 82 cents, but at $99.10. April feeder cattle up $1.77 at $273.80. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.